What's up, creative community? Welcome back to the Coach MC Studio. This is the place where we'll help you actors, performers, entertainers to shape unique behavior deliveries and to get hopefully recognized in the audition room. I wanted to release this recorded masterclass for you guys because it's all about the memorization process, how to memorize the lines in the most effective, most impactful way, how to get in touch with what you have to say with your presentation, with your pitch sale, with your monologue, with your speech, or the scenes for the audition. It's such a vital part of our communication game because whether you're an actor, performer, an entertainer, stand-up, or somebody who works with presentations, it's communication all over the place. So we need to memorize a lot of text during our lifetime, during our career, and therefore the quicker and the more effective we can absorb text and reproduce it in a remarkable way, the higher the chances people will actually listen to us, right? So therefore, I want to invite you also to join our masterclass program. You can find the link on Eventbrite and my Instagram bio as well, where we have free masterclasses happening every month, where we invite people over to join us at the creative community, where I share my industry insights, where I present you tools and performance weapons that worked out for me, where I share some of the experiences that I made on set, on stage, in the audition room, where I try to help you guys to perform in the most remarkable way, where you also get the chance to connect with other creators from all over the world, to network a little bit and to ask me questions finally. So make sure to watch out for the masterclass program. It's going to happen every month. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. If you're here to this channel, you're interested in acting tips, mindset tips on how to navigate entertainment industry, and career strategy tips, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also share this video to your creative community if you thought the value proposition is valid, and also smash the like button by the end so the algorithm knows what you value the most. Now, without any further ado, let's jump right into it and let's tackle this very important task on how to memorize the lines quickly, effectively, and in a smart way. So memorizing the lines, like I said, is a process that's gonna, it's gonna be our companion. It's gonna be our Sancho Panza for the rest of our lives, whether you're an actor, an entertainer, a performer, somebody who speaks a lot, who has to kind of, hold a lot of speeches, if you run a podcast program, or you have any type of keynote representation going on throughout the year, lines, scripts everywhere, right? And it's truly important to get the most out of the lines in the quickest way possible, especially if we're talking about the audition process, where sometimes we audition and then we have a cold reading afterwards because people liked our audition, and then maybe they just hand us over some lines, send us over a script and say, hey, can you memorize the scene really quick? You got like 15 minutes to blow us away with the second scene. We want to give you another chance because we pretty much liked the audition already, and now we love to explore even more what you're capable of. And so that second audition inside of the original audition, that cold reading, sometimes it's crucial for our careers to have that breakthrough moment to get called to the callback or even the chemistry reading. And therefore, it's also a stress test to kind of see, from the production side of things, to kind of see how adaptive, how quick you are as a performer, as an actor, how swiftly you can adapt to the line and reproduce them with some intention, with some colors, with some integrity. And it's always a nice thing, right, to kind of deliver lines that you just received a couple of minutes before, as if you studied them for months, right? As if this is like completely natural and organic for you. So even for those who are, not preparing anything in the near future, this could be a very valid masterclass type of video, because through that, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that I can teach you a couple of tricks and tips and insights on how to tackle the cold reading also in a more effective way, and to really impress the casting director, especially when you have not a lot of time at your disposal, right? So for all these reasons, I felt like it was necessary to, finish up this year with Splendor, with this masterclass to give you some, some tangible tools that you can kind of implement through the holiday season where you have a little bit time for yourself and maybe try it out already, because for sure I'm going to drop some truth bombs and you make sure that you take notes. Of course, you can always pause this video and kind of, take all the notes necessary, but make sure you have something handy where you can take notes, a sheet of paper, your journal, your pencils, your laptop, your iPad, whatever it is, because you don't want to miss out on any detail, right? And like I said, jump into our master classes every month, because it's big fun to meet others from the creative community, to not feel that alone in this quest to success, and to have someone like me who can answer to some of your questions and maybe clear out things a little bit, so your path to success won't be as obfuscated anymore, right? So let's start with the rumble. So what we have here is, before we actually start with the technical aspects, I like to kind of say a couple of words beforehand. Like always, I'm trying to give you some sort of a holistic introduction to this very, very important topic, right? To all the topics that I'm covering, I'm always giving you first a little intro, a little understanding what this is actually about, and then we jump into the technical aspects, and then we kind of have the resume at the end, where we kind of recondense everything that we so far have learned, so you can have the most in the quickest amount of time. Memorizing the lines is super vital because it shows how our brain works, it shows how adaptive we are, and it shows how much we can connect actually with the script, because it's not about just being quick, right? Of course, Warren Buffett tells us, whether you are the fastest, the smartest, or the weirdest. And so being the fastest definitely is a value proposition in itself already. It shows that you have some qualities, but it's not about making it the first all the time, or proving a point and being the first, or it's not a competition against time in itself, right? Even though time is valuable, and the more time you can save your production company, the quicker you are with memorizing the lines and having that turnaround and reproducing whatever is written in the script. Because of course, on set, sometimes it can happen that you've memorized something the day before, and then there are some major changes. They're going to scrap everything. They will give you some new lines, and it will tell you, hey, we need to shoot this in 10 minutes, and you haven't had the time, right? So what you do there is crucial to get into the new text. And of course, time is on your side if you are quicker, but it's not about proving that. It's not about competing. It's not about building up a new pressure temple inside of yourself that you have to kind of fulfill. It's not about that. It's just making you realize that time is a factor, of course, and the quicker you are, and if you can maintain that level of quality, of course, at the same time, the better the results will be. And also, it is a great business card for your reputation. I mean, no doubt about it. But if you take a couple of minutes more and then you produce great quality, nobody will look at the watch and say, wow, that actress took 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes to memorize those lines, right? If the results are amazing, they will be blown away, and they won't, look at the watch again, because they say, hey, maybe she needs 5 minutes more. So be it, right? If the quality, if the outcome, if the product in the end is amazing, it doesn't really matter how much time she needed to get there. I mean, it does matter, but till a certain point, everything like that makes sense, that is inside of the boundaries of common sense, is necessary sometimes for artists. Like some of us artists are quicker, or more inclined to absorbing the text a bit faster, and some of us just need more time, and that's okay. What I'm trying to say here is no pressure, right? It's not about being quick, for God's sake. It's about, of course, releasing the text with quality, and therefore memorizing the lines. Yes, it is a method also to learn the lines quicker, but first and foremost, and most importantly, it's about absorbing them and stratifying them deeply inside of yourself. And therefore, before we even start with the technical aspect and the mumbo jumbo of, is there a trick here, is there a trick there, let me just say two things right off the bat. There's going to be a second masterclass video where we're going to talk about more sophisticated, a bit more advanced methods of memorizing the lines, right? Stuff that has been used in the industry, also by, you know, secret agents and by other members of the creative community, right? There will be some more advanced tools with the second masterclass. This here is about more simple, basic, fundamental stuff that a lot of us neglect because, you know, with time, with pressure, with performances, with auditions and self-tapes and trainings all over the place, we sometimes forget how important it is that we move as a unit, right? When we face the text, when we reproduce our lines, when we have the interpretation of our character. And memorizing the lines as masterclass is also, I feel, very important to kind of clarify a bit of misconceptions when it's about really getting in tune with what your character has to say. And therefore, this is more like a fundamental, you know, reconstruction of what are the basics here. And there's going to be a bit more of an advanced masterclass happening next year where we're going to talk about more sophisticated tools, tips, and tricks. Because right now I feel like it's important to really kind of clear out the field and getting a couple of things straight, because if you master these basics, you got 80% covered of everything that you will need for the rest of your career. Let me tell you that. And this is somebody speaking who is for 35 years now, an actor over 35 years and over 25 years part of entertainment industry, being on set like me, where I have over 2,200 acting credits on IMDb. So you can imagine that I had really to memorize incredible amount of lines, short term, mid-term, and long term. And therefore the range sometimes varies, but what doesn't vary is the quality of your output, hopefully. And to improve that, this is the reason why we're doing this. So it's not a race against time. It's not about being a genius and you know, kind of absorbing huge chunks of text in no time, or it's not about speed reading per se. We will talk about that in the more sophisticated, updated version of memorizing the lines. This is really about me getting in tune with my character. And my character happens to say a couple of things, and these things are important. And the more efficient we are with the absorption of what our character has to say, the more we can internalize them, stratify them deeply, and solidify them inside of ourselves. And that will most likely crystallize into a great acting performance. This is ultimately what this is all about. So whether you learn it in 5 minutes or 15 minutes or even in an hour and 5 minutes, it really doesn't matter as long as the quality of your output is top notch, right? It kind of has always to reflect that 85% minimum of quality standard that we like to hit. And sometimes we hit 93%, sometimes we hit 83, sometimes we hit 100%. It really doesn't matter, but it needs to be up there all the time with all the texts that we need to learn. And sometimes the texts are a bit more banal, sometimes a bit more mundane, nothing special, where the language is a bit more contemporary or just rough. It kind of reflects sometimes a character that is out of a, you know, comes out of a universe where speech is not as elaborate and sophisticated like in historical pieces, Shakespeare pieces, or where, you know, of course, the language is a bit more flowery and all that. But even though we have contemporary texts and mundane contemporary lines, right, that are not reflecting any poetic speech, even in there is poetry. Even in there is art, right? So it's also about detecting the art, detecting the marble, detecting the marvelous stuff inside of what seems to be a regular text, which will give you a competitive edge, you know, against all of your competitors. Because again, actually, there are no competitors. It's always us. It's always a blank sheet of paper with a couple of lines on top. And it's always our fantasy that is a universe at our disposal to show our true colors and to impact our audiences. This is ultimately our quest. Whether, you know, we learn lines, whether we have to kind of reproduce poetry, whether we are going into a presentation in front of our board meeting, or we have a pitch sale with a venture capitalist. It doesn't matter. It's always us. It's always the universe inside of us that matters. So if we take care of the universe inside of us, the universe outside of us will take care of us, right? And so therefore it's this game of duality. And this was really important to me to kind of explain that before, because lines are special. They are not just there. They aren't just words. They are the most important words in the life of the character, right? When you're opening up a page, a script, a screenplay, somebody gave you a couple of lines, a poet, whatever it is, a song, lyrics, right? They are special. They should be the most special thing that you say, and therefore try to understand that there is a time right now where we are bombarded with words, with sounds, with noise, with music, with colors. We get distracted everywhere, and it's about us to find our focus and to find our sole purpose, right? Because if our values align with what's important with in the text, right? If we find that value alignment, we find focus, and we are able also to go that extra mile and put in some more effort to really flesh out what's special about that. That is super, super important. So first things first, let's share the screen right here, and let's show you guys something really important right from the top, right off the bat. When we are acting, we are the lines in the script, right? We represent those lines. We move, we speak, and we act like a unit, right? It's not something that, because sometimes I feel like people make that type of mistake. Hey, you know what? These are lines. I'm somewhere in the car, I'm somewhere in the bathroom. I learned those lines, right? There are lines written by someone. I don't even care about the author, right? I'm the great guy here. I'm the great girl here. I just need to absorb them really quickly and then just boom, give my blueprint about it. In a way, yes, but it's, not really like that, because these lines are now you. And you and those lines, they have to move as a unit. These are not two separate things. They are not two separate entities. Embrace this fact, because in order to be a remarkable actor or actress, your memorization process, really from the moment you turn on the memorization process, you open up your screenplay, you open up your presentation, you open up the audition. From that moment on, the process of getting the lines into your head, into your system, because it's about that, to get them into your system and not only into your head, needs to reflect that truth. It's not just, oh yeah, I don't like these lines, I learned these lines, right, more or less, with attention while I'm doing 1,000 things, on the side. No, it's about you realizing, guys, your career starts from every audition, from every time you open up, your textbook, and your career starts in the moment you really understand it's me, right? Stop complaining about, oh, this line is not written well, or this character is a bit strange, or this audition is way too long, or how should I, start with thinking, hey, I need to embrace this truth that what's written here, that's me. So I need to make everything happen in order to let that inside of me, and not fight against that, and not seeing this as a separate entity, or like even a foreign entity, like, oh, who's this? Oh, I don't like these lines. Look how it's written. Look how the author, look at this. There are many, many, many always excuses, right, to go the path of least resistance, and try not to engage as much as you should, right, in order to kind of get this into your system. But there is not one single reason to don't regard this as your extension and not something separate. So this should be the conductor of your thoughts from the very moment, from the very first moment you're opening up your audition, your lines, your screenplay, your presentation, your pitch sale, or whatever it is that you have in mind, that your speech, your monologue, right? And if you reverse engineer this process, that when we're acting, we're the lines in the script, we move and speak and act like a unit, and we need to embrace this fact, otherwise our performance won't be remarkable, because it's not going to be the truth. If you respect what's written here, then you have to make sure that before you sit down and you do the work, that everything else is prepared, right? You can't learn in a messy room. You can't learn when it's noisy around you. I mean, at a certain point, after you learn to memorize, kind of stress testing your memory and putting yourself under, into hard performing circumstances is actually is actually quite healthy. Afterwards, it's a good way to test how deeply you really absorbed and you understood the lines. But beforehand, you need to make sure that there's a direct line from your heart, from your system, and from your head to the lines, and nothing else will distract you, because from now on, you guys need to move like a unit. Okay, so we have the memorization process, right? And first things first, I did a nice Picasso drawing here for you guys. This is all me. This is all the art happening, you know, from back in the days, which hopefully will help you to kind of visualize and understand a couple of things. So write down, the first thing is important. You need clarity. You need clarity. Like I said, your desk, your room, your space, even the air you're breathing, right? I mean, everything needs to be cleared out. Even if you have just a couple of minutes, make sure they completely belong to you. Your cell phones are turned off. Maybe you call up your friends and say, hey, for the next hour or so, I don't want to be interrupted by nobody, right? Make sure that there is a connection happening. And therefore, you know, air your room a little bit, right? Open up the windows, let some fresh air in. Maybe you do a couple of exercises, warm-up exercises, right? Get yourself in tune with this character, right? Breathe in, breathe out a couple of times, and make sure that your system is proactive, that it's there, ready and willing to absorb, because you need to send signals to your brain that now it's time to work. And before we kind of go through these bullet points here, I want to say one thing. There is something called the daily circadian rhythm. And let me just stop the screen right now and explain this a little bit more granular, because I think it's truly important. What is the daily circadian rhythm? It basically is a blueprint that tells us scientifically how the brain works. The left and the right hemisphere of our brain has operational hours. It has been proven that our brain has a certain facility to absorb data in the morning that is based on logic, on reason, that is based on dates, on math, on science, on law, on everything that kind of requires an understanding of how things work in a chronological, schematic, hierarchical type of way. That is best to be done from 7 in the morning till 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. Why? Because when we wake up, from the moment we wake up till 2:30 p.m., our brain is mostly active in the left hemisphere. And the left hemisphere is responsible for dates, for numbers, for laws, for restrictions, for everything that has to do with measurements, for science, for everything like that. But it's also attentive and very awake and very on alert, let's say, when it's about huge chunks of text that need to be processed. So a great way to see that left hemisphere type of activity is to lay the foundation in the morning, because from the moment we wake up till 7:30, we are on high alert in the left hemisphere of our brain, and therefore we can absorb a lot of information pretty easily, especially when that's logical information. So a logical, rational type of structure work in the morning is preferable. Then from 2:30, roughly 2:30 p.m. till 4:30 p.m., we hit what scientists call the trough, the afternoon slump. It's basically a valley where our brain doesn't function as flawless as in the morning. And what it is, it's basically the transition from the left hemisphere of your brain to the right hemisphere of the brain that happens in that time window from 2 p.m. till 4:35 p.m. We're actually transitioning from our high activity from the left side to the right side. And that transition, of course, that travel from left to right, that takes effort, it takes time, and therefore our brain activity is very low in the afternoon in that period of time. And this is why Southern European countries or Southern, Latin American countries, Southern American countries, they like the siesta because they know it's not the body that is fatigued, it's the brain that is tired in that period of time. And we need to make a power nap there and lay down everything that is important work, if possible, if we can enjoy that privilege, and to not look into much text or try to write anything very important. Actually, there is a funny statistic that shows that most people have been fired from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Most wars have been declared, and the worst emails have been written. And that afternoon slump and that mental trough, right? It's like a valley of lower brain activity, of cerebral activity. And then it picks slowly up, starting from 4:30, and then it reaches acceptable levels in the right hemisphere for 5 p.m. on. And from 5 p.m. on, the latest, our right hemisphere of the brain takes more control of our overall brain activity. And our right hemisphere, as a juxtaposition to our left hemisphere, is more responsible for everything that's holistic, for everything that has to do with like creativity, like inspiration, writing poems, paintings, kind of engaging in some type of artistic activity, like drawing, like coloring stuff, right? Where we go to dance, or where we have like more creative, esoteric, magical type of thoughts, where we can lay down tarot cards, all that stuff, right? That is a bit more spiritual, esoteric, that has a little bit more of ethereal connotations that are not rooted and founded in tangible stuff. That is preferable to do in the afternoon, because this is when our brain loves to kind of tackle these arguments, right? So the logical, the structural, the very regulated stuff that has to do with laying down the text, the blueprints and everything, or learning complicated formulas, everything that's rational and logical should be done in the morning. This is when we are very attentive with that. Everything that's more creative, like writing songs or composing melodies, or recording maybe a self-tape that is a bit more artistic, something like that, should be done in the afternoon. Or like, if you want to kind of project this on learning the lines, you can say, hey, you know what, I lay the foundation in the morning for my text. Then I take my break from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then I tackle the text a bit more creatively. I try to insert maybe movements or certain important gestures, or something that is a bit more rational and sporadic and spontaneous in the afternoon. This is how I complete in a holistic way the process, while respecting the daily circadian rhythm, which is sort of a functional blueprint of our brain. And then, of course, we have also the nighttime, where our brain produces activity in certain parts of its limbic system that are very important for the creative people as well. I love to work at night, especially when I have a bit more free time, because it kind of gives me another inspiration, another take. So yes, maybe the nighttime is also a good way, after you touched upon these fields of memorizing. Maybe the nighttime will give you a new injection, a new idea, a new image, a new impulse as well. And then you relax, then you take a rest, and you start the whole process the next morning for the rest of your life. Here we go. This is the brain's functional blueprint. And it was really important to talk about that, especially when we're talking about clarity. And now we can go back to the screen, because the clarity that I'm talking about is also to knowing exactly how your brain works. And you need to figure out how your brain works, and by following the daily circadian rhythm, and also by making sure that, whether it's the air, the light, the way your desk is set up, that your brain sort of has the space necessary to have the quickest connection possible to the text, so that there is nothing else. And I like to say, you need to go underground, right? You need to kind of, dig deep, go underground, close all the doors, and really get in tune with your text. So clarity is super, super important to memorize the lines a bit faster. Another thing is, if there is anything in your schedule that you can clear in advance, by all means do so. We don't want any other disturbing thoughts kind of, friendly firing or firing at our memorization process. That would be counterproductive, right? We want to clear our schedule so we can focus solely on absorbing the lines. And you will see, if you do that, if you clear your schedule in advance, the memorization process goes by quicker. You actually are more effective because you don't have any disturbing background thoughts about, oh, I had to do this, or I had to pay this bill, or I had to talk with someone, or I had to kind of figure out how to get tomorrow to the audition. Do that beforehand. So really, there is nothing else blocking you from absorbing the lines, right? If there are any chores, any schedule events that you need to clear beforehand, make sure to do that. And by doing so, you take the pressure out, right? So it's really to have that type of structure, to find also a clear voice when you are, of course, reading the text for the very first time. We want you to repeat it loud, and therefore you need a clear voice. If you cleared your schedule in advance, if you know exactly that you don't have any chores, anything, you don't have any pressure, you will find your clear voice. And the voice is truly important, because, and we will talk about that in a minute, right? If you can clear your voice, you immediately capture the intention behind certain lines when you're reading them, when you're repeating them out loud. So you immediately recognize, oh, this is good. This is good. This is something I should double down on. And this is what my character actually reflects, right? So again, this is way more effective. What I've trying always to say is, the focus comes from eliminating all distractions, but the focus also comes from the meaning, right? When you're reading the text for, let's say, the first, the second time, maybe you have it, technically you run through the text. Maybe you take even your time on your cell phone and you realize, okay, this is 3 minutes. You just do a technical setup first. But then when you repeat it the second or the third time, make sure to find some islands of meaning. And what I mean by that is every brain works differently, and you will find certain words more important than others for a strange reason, right? This might be like only a hunch, something that's rather spontaneously happening as an impulse. It doesn't matter. If you do so, if you find meaning in a certain word, like go through that word again. It's like, oh, okay, what does that actually mean? Why am I emphasizing this, right? Okay, maybe there is already like an intention going on. And this is like a meaning island, an island full of meaning. Maybe you take notes on the side already, or you highlight this word in with a different color, and you already get a different connection. And by doing so, you have, you kind of spot a couple of words or a couple of sentences that have already meaning while you're repeating it the very first time, the second time. And meaning kind of enforces focus. So you absorb those lines quicker. You repeat it, which is great, because of course repetition kind of burns in the lines into our brain, into our short-term memory, which is great. But the thing is that you start to explore. And what I want to say with this is, we need to explore. Again, it's not just about memorizing per se. Oh, I need to be quick, right? It's not an industrial process, right? It's not about the mechanization of the learning, the memorization process. Oh, now, I won the trophy. No, it's about exploring the meaning. It's about exploring the meaning of the character. Why does he have the problems that he has? Well, what is the clash? Where is the conflict in the scene? What are the relationships with the other character? What is the relationship with his love interest in the scene or in the play, right? When you explore the meaning, you shift your focus from memorizing to exploring, and therefore the memorization process is a secondary byproduct that happens spontaneously while you're actually focusing on something completely different. Does that make sense? You're now already in the mood of exploring. What does that actually mean? Why is he saying that? Maybe there is a different connotation to this. And then you do it again, and you repeat it out loud for yourself. And it's like, this is maybe the reason. And you start getting creative, and therefore memorization will happen quite naturally, right? It's a secondary product. Like I said, it's nothing that you're actually focused on actively. It goes through the back door. It kind of circumvents your reptilian center, which is the oldest stem in your brain, which is pretty much responsible to kind of letting the information pass on to the higher to the penthouse levels of your operational atticus over here, right? Because it starts in the reptilian center, and then it goes to the mid cortex, the limbic system, And then it goes up into the neocortex, which is the latest development, which is the youngest version of our brain, right? The latest layer of our brain, the newest version. And therefore, the neocortex is then responsible for all the functional things. But the reptilian center is actually the one responsible for, passing on the information and as thoroughly and as effective as possible, and not kind of trying to manipulate. If the information we deliver to our brain is too complicated, or it feels like overwhelming or too much, our reptilian center will start to severely truncate this information and kind of put it into pieces, so it's not too much of a hustle to learn it, and therefore the whole meaning won't be passed on to your neocortex, and therefore your performance will be flawed. And we want to prevent that. We try to circumvent the reptilian center by focusing not so much on the humongous task, but on the funny meaning, to deliver a playful approach to the memorization process. This is a way of doing it, right? So again, jumping back into this beautiful painting of mine, into this drawing, explore different meanings over and over again. Emphasize a word here, emphasize another word the next time. Have fun with this, and you will see memorization will go by in no time, right? Because it's your time. And meaning helps also the mind to focus, to remember, and to, over time, what happens is our brain fixes the inconsistencies while we're thinking about something else, right? Not because we're not paying active attention to a text, our brain stops working on that text, right? We absorb the text, we already repeat it with a little bit of meaning, we repeat it out loud, we have a clear connection to it, and then maybe we stop, right? Because we have to do other things during the day, but our brain will continue tinkering about what we just did, and will fix all the inconsistencies and all the little things in the meanwhile. So it's really, really important to explore that meaning, and it will help you to get a quicker understanding of your text, right? What you can do also is show it to your friends, right? While you're exploring the meaning, while you're repeating the lines, while you have maybe one paragraph already of the text of your monologue, of the speech of the presentation covered, you can show it to your friends, right? This will of course, increase the urgency of what you're doing. It will pressure you a little bit more, and it will, kind of force the brain to work more effectively. Because if you have already a reason to prove that you have learned the lines, your brain will work a bit more effectively and really kind of encapsulating everything that you just learned in a bit more effective way. And to have it ready already, you can show it to your friends, to your family, you can show it to yourself, record it, right? Just adjust to the context of the moment. But what you can also do, let's say the text talks about you being in the office and having an outburst over an assignment from your boss that you deem unfair. Maybe you already arrange your apartment according to the set to the office where everything happens, right? Where you have a desk with a laptop computer with some documents, and you're maybe dressed like in the office, and you're coming in through the door of your apartment as if you're showing up at work. And so therefore already set up something for your mind where your mind feels like comfortable and playful, and so already it can start to learn the text according to a projection you have in the future, instead of just sitting behind your desk and forcing your brain to absorb the information. So that is already like an interesting idea that I can give you, like adjust your apartment to the set, to the context that will later on happen, and have friends come over and show them what you're doing there. Because again, meaning increases the focus. The focus gives also value, because your brain understands, oh, okay, this is really important. That will ultimately save you time. And time is interesting, because in a way, our brain loves to be entertained, right? Like I said, the reptilian center is kind of responsible of passing on the information. So if you made it if you make it too complicated and too weary and too draining in terms of a process, then your brain will check out on you in no time. So make sure that you know, take weird breaks. Let's say you sit down and you learn for a half an hour, and then you take a 3-minute break, right? You fetch yourself an espresso, you open up the windows, you air the room, you close everything down, and you get back to the text for another 15, 20, 30 minutes. And then you take 27 minutes of a break. And then after that, you learn for 2 hours, and then you take 17 minutes of a break, right? So your brain really doesn't know where it's heading. So there is no regular time. So it's always on high alert because your brain never knows, oh, maybe he's taking a break in 5 minutes. No, I need to be focused. Or maybe it's in a half hour. So I need to extend my focus for that period of time. So it's great to kind of play with your reptilian center, to play with your brain and to elude your mind a little bit, right? To not just, you know, sit down as if this is a school assignment, but to really have fun and to enjoy this process, because it's your process. Again, you have to move like a unit, right, with the text later on. And so you have to make sure that your system understands and captures every nuance of what you're doing. And this will help you, as crazy as that sounds, to save time, right? So understanding will also give you reasons to defend it later on text, on set. And it's great also your brain, because if your brain starts to defend choices based on the understanding, because you realize what the meaning is, even at an early stage of the memorization process, already kind of creates a narrative inside of your head, which means that you are absorbing the text also quicker. But later on, it will give you also some arguments, right? On set, when the director asks you, hey, can I ask you why you did this scene in this or that way, or why you grabbed the water while you were having this monologue. And you can just argue by saying, you know, when I did this the first time, this was my first impulse. I felt it was important, and that led me to this choice. So you already are coming across as a more professional actor, as somebody who's really in charge of his game, who really kind of thinks of how to memorize the lines, and not only, yeah, let me just memorize the lines because it's a necessity of my job. Now, to not make this too complicated and too long, there is, I think, one method that stands above all methods, and that is to write down your lines. And let me just tell you this: nothing is more magical than, you know, the relationship that you have with a sheet of paper, with your hand, your eyes, and your brain. This triangle, this is the real trinity. This is where everything starts. This is the holy number 3. Your brain, your body, and here you have the sheet of your future performance, right? This is a perfect combination. Take a sheet of paper, right? No laptops, no computers, no iPads. Take a sheet of paper, because you need resistance. You need tactile feeling. You need something to touch upon where you can take notes, something that lives, right? Look at this. This is living. This is writing. This is drawing. Take some notes. You know, by doing so, the text becomes vivid. The absorption process becomes way more natural. And look at this posture, right? This is very intimate, right? There is no room for cell phones, for distractions, for noise, right? This is meaning. This is your mind. This is the focus. You're visualizing what you're writing. You are a creator. A blank sheet of paper, and just write down your script, your monologue again for yourself, and with your handwriting, which is great, because again, this is so valuable on so many levels for your brain, for, you know, creating new neural pathways in your head. And it's a great way to exercise writing, right? To have a tactile feeling, to have resistance, to see that you're creating something that you know, kind of belongs to you. This is your writing. And it's also a great way, if you come back to this in a couple of years. I have many journals where I've written down some of my texts, and coming back to them, you know, in a couple of years and seeing what I was working on, is just a beautiful way of memorizing that as well. And it's almost like a diary, like, oh, look at this. I was working on this role on this text a couple of years ago, and what has changed? What were my notes? What was I thinking back then? This is a beautiful process. Nothing more is is effective than just writing it down. Just transcribe your text on a new sheet of paper with your handwriting. This will, translate in a super effective way, because it's like tattooing the information into your brain, right? It also shows your brain that this stuff is important, because if you're setting up your desk, you're writing it down, you're taking time to do that, you're signaling your brain, you're signaling your reptilian center, hey, this is truly important. And so therefore you will open up in a completely different way. And by reading what you're writing, you're discovering also your inner voice, which will then lead you also to have an understanding of what you're saying, which will lead to a clear voice in the reproduction. And therefore this is heavily related to a great performance, because you will find your resonance, you will find your meaning with this as well, right? In the end, it's about kind of discovering the rhythm, and that's all love, right? This is love, because you're listening to the story, you're listening to yourself while you're writing, you're taking some precious time to do that. And believe me, that comes from a deep passion for the craft, and not just learning from a cell phone, which, by the way, is of course toxic for your brain. It's blue light, it's no resistance, it's a flat, it's nicely created, it's beautifully crafted and designed, but it's flat, it has no resistance, it doesn't activate any neural pathways. And if we are numbing ourselves down with all these flat screens that don't have anything to push or to press anymore, that will kind of deteriorate our neural pathways instead of enlighten them. So write down your text, because the lines you say, they must go beyond just being audible and understandable. Your lines must grab your brain's attention. And the moment they grab your brain's attention, they grab also the attention of your audience. And last but not least, I know this is a pretty long presentation. When you are on set, let's say, right, or you're rehearsing this for yourself, place the lines according to the room. Yeah, place your lines in the room, right? You visualize where you wanna, you come into a room, right? And there is Brian, the other character, talking to you in the scene. So you have the first part of the monologue right here when you enter the door, and maybe you place the second reaction to what Brian is responding to you while you're close to the TV set or to the drawer here. And then you maybe go, all around the rug, all around the room, standing by the windows, and then you're answering into his back. And so by doing that, by placing the lines, by placing the script into the room, by visualizing where you want to say things, and you may be kind of, arranging everything accordingly into your room as well, where you can project already how it's going to work in the future. First of all, you kind of de-escalate the fatigue in your brain, because your brain all of a sudden will have three little pieces instead one big chunk, right? Because I know I will deliver my intro of the monologue maybe here, right next to the door. Then I will move over. I have the cue. I turn around. I say something close to the TV, that is maybe even related to that, so I can remember what I'm saying in every segment of the apartment. And then I have this long walk where I maybe have a nice long description. I wait for his reply. And then here, close to the rug, next to the window, I say something into his back, because that's my intention. And by doing so, you de-escalate the stress momentum in your brain, because it's not a huge chunk anymore. It's not a mountain that I need to deliver. It's little stones and pieces here and there along, that I place accordingly in the room. So people, names, location, positions will help you also to memorize the lines way quicker, to transform the lines in something more vivid. To have names associated to your movements is great, because they stand now for something. They're just not a shallow name attributed to a character that you don't know. Now you start having a relationship with all these things in your room, which will of course lead to a more organic and professional performance, because it looks like, yes, this person belongs to this room. Or if this room is completely alien to you, then, the other way around. Like, make sure that you place your lines accordingly where you're not secure, and you can show that insecurity, so people will tell, this character is for the first time entering this room or this office or this building or wherever he is. And therefore, you control the narrative. This is what memorizing the lines is also about, because you're connecting your lines with maybe the props, right? When you're saying something, you're drinking a glass of water, you're talking about a moment, then you're, going over to the mirror, you have an important gesture, right? I call these points of forces where you really can rely on the set, and where you can kind of, use the props or use the set to emphasize, to support what you are saying. Now they're becoming points of force and not points of instability, of insecurity, where you don't know what happens, right? So I will always, do this when, when I had to shoot a lot for my soap opera, where we were basically shooting 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. I had to make sure that I always was finding my points of forces where I could rely on, so I would use less energy and have maximum momentum. Because if you have to play a lot of scenes during the week, if you have a lot of stuff to do, a lot of characters, a lot of names, and a lot of visualization going on, this is a great process of breaking this down and making it more digestible, right? And having it actionable right from the start. And if you don't have a room, right, you could also say, hey, coach, what about if my character is in prison? Yeah, then place your lines on the body. If there's nothing else, then you place your gestures, your movements according that are happening in the text, according to certain body parts. Maybe you clap your hands when the introduction, or you lean on your knees or on your thighs when you're saying this, or you have your body if you have nothing else, right? And so there is the solution. Even if you have to play an isolated character that somehow is somewhere in the basement or in the attic or in a prison cell where there's nothing else, no props, nothing else, you have your body. You can place your lines on your body, which is also a great way of memorizing. My thighs are responsible for my first part, when I'm going down on my knees. This is the second part of the text. When I stand up and I grab my hat, or I shrug my shoulders, this is the third part. So I can remember that the actions are correlated to certain segments or certain paragraphs of the text. Another thing that you can do at home, to give you a last tip, is while you're rehearsing the lines, try to do something like an habitual movement, right? Whether you are like working out, even like, you're lifting some weights, or you're cutting some onions for your lunch, or you even like shower talks are a great way of doing something habitual, something very personal and intimate, and you're going through your lines. This is a great way of stratifying them even deeper and more quickly. And by that, let's come back to my ugly face and just tell you this. Today, I propose to you a lot of information, a lot of stuff, how our brain works, how we can learn the lines quicker, how we can, how we can applicate immediate meaning to the lines without having to explore too much, and how we can visualize how this will then unfold in the audition room, on set, on text, which is truly important to kind of de-escalate the pressure, to kind of lower a little bit your nervosity. Because if you already know what you're doing, right, if you exercise with movements or with habitual performances, linear automatisms, how I call them, during the day, right, something that is totally normal to you, then it will be also totally normal for you on set. So, practice with danger, practice with risk, make it yours, make it your habit to go through the lines in all sorts of crazy ways, because in the end, it's your creativity that it's been asked here. And memorizing the lines is also a creative task. It's not just absorbing text. Again, it's something that you should enjoy, that you should have fun with, because the more fun you have, the more you enjoy it, the more playful you are, the more possibilities you kind of explore in your, in your little secure comfort zone, the better you are later on, because you have more things to offer. If you know exactly, hey, I need 12 seconds to walk from my window to my desk, so 12 seconds are a great way to have like a transitional line happening that is not truly important, where it's just circumstantial descriptions of something. Then when I sit down, then now I can release the important stuff. So you know exactly how to time your body and your speech. Because again, coming back to the first principle, what I've written down here, it's really about understanding that, I'm going to share this one more time, that when we are acting, we are the lines. Yeah, we should reflect this truth. We should move like a unit, right? This all belongs to us. It's not something separate. So the more fun we have before, the more we risk a little bit with our preparation, the more we show it, and the more we are kind of, forged in fire, the easier it is for us to perform also, in hard circumstances, and to never get distracted and to release our text in the most profound, the most compelling way. Look at actors like Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins. They are masters of the lines. They really have them deep down inside of themselves because they do this. They repeat lines thousands of times in all sorts of ways, and now they are waterproof, foolproof inside of them. And so the only thing they need to do is really open their eyes, don't blink, and just release it while looking at the other character. And the camera now can capture all those beautiful nuances, those subtexts, and those beautiful meanings out of the context of what's happening behind our eyes, because that's where the magic actually happens. So I hope you enjoyed this masterclass, memorizing the lines. If you have any further questions, please let me know. Just comment in the comment section down below, or just write me a DM on Instagram, where it's the Coach MC, or just write me on my website. Through my website, it's info@thecoachmc.studio, where you can also join me for a free trial session for 30 minutes. We can, jump into a free exploration strategy session where we can find out if we're a great match for each other. And if we are, we can talk about, you joining the program and becoming an even more remarkable performer next year. And till next year, I wish you all the possible best, a lot of prosperity, a lot of good gelato, a lot of great dance moves, a lot of great roles, a lot of great auditions. For everything else, I will certainly assist you. So watch out for the next masterclass. Watch out for the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't so far. And now you're ready to perform.